It's all been leading to this. Tonight, the season 1 finale of Andor. Tonight, we're going to totally discuss everything on Andor, a Star Wars podcast. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And tonight, it's finally done. The first season of maybe the most underappreciated, underwatched Star Wars show in the history of forever. And well, listen, with that kind of weight, I can't handle it on my own. I can't discuss this on my own. I need help. And the only one I would ever turn to would be Justin, the Console Kits. What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
I think I figured it out. I understand why people hate Andor, and I understand how people love Andor, and I can't wait to talk about it tonight.
It's either or. It's one extreme or the next.
And those of you, obviously your channel and my channel, predominantly home arcade content viewers, and I think it is all connected.
All of it. All of it's connected.
I can't wait to discuss it. So episode 12 is tonight, right? This is
episode 12. This is Justin. This is the last one. Justin, this is the finale, the finality.
All good things come to an end. Now, I will tell you, 19K Fox, I love you. You're a great friend. I've been looking at my analytics.
I'm sensing a but.
And no, there's no but.
Oh, good.
Since we've been doing content together, the #1 YouTuber in the analytics. Okay, so there's this thing in YouTube where it's like, your audience also watches this content.
Gotcha.
So my audience also watched these other content creators. And 19K Fox was like in like 3rd or 4th place. And now you're #1.
There you go.
I think it's the Andor, maybe because you're just a fantastic content creator.
Well, I think it's definitely Andor. I'm in good company. I got to say, I can't believe I made it. I need a trophy. Just want to thank everybody so much. The #1 spot, it's an honor and a privilege. It's a privilege.
You were #1. You're above
really just to be nominated.
For a long time, it was Mad Little Pixel, but now it's you.
Now it's me. I've made it. Oh, geez, that's awesome. You drinking tonight, buddy? Did you celebrate?
Dude, I've been filling up this cup a little bit too much. So this is probably the most alcohol I've consumed for a live stream. So you got to do most of the talking.
Tonight, bank on. You can just bet on colorful commentary from the one, the only Justin, Console Kids. But we got to say, listen, we are just part of the story. We're part of the show. We got to say hi to the chat. People jumping in, saying hi. Endless One Up says, happy day. Smile day. Happy day. Absolutely. It's great. It's a great day. It's a great day. Wrapping up a great week for sure. Harry X says, may the Schwartz be with you.
Dude, is it true that they're coming out with Spaceballs 2, A Search for More Money?
Listen, if they did.
They need to. They're a little late on it because it could have been like making fun of Ren and all.
You know what? You could have done the sequel trilogy. You could have done the prequels. It could have come out, about that time. Because I guess they were right between. They were before.
Because at this point, would they make fun of like Mandalorian or something? That wouldn't be funny. Mandalorian's great.
No, you can make. Well, there are many other things, Justin, to make fun of. I don't think Andor is one of them. It's not an easy target, but the sequel trilogy would be ripe. It is just full of content, of reasons, of things to mock and make fun of.
Yeah,
just my.
They better not make fun of Andor though.
No, it is the untouchable of all the new properties. MG is in the house saying the Andor title had the fun band playing this week. The full band playing this week. Absolutely. They had everybody on full display. Andre says, Sup. How you doing? Console fanboy stopping by to say how Fox Justin is cheating on you. What?
I was doing a members only live stream with Michael B, the Game Genie. For those of you, we're doing these members live stream. It's not gatekeeping or anything like that. The following day they're available to the public. It's
feels
just
like gatekeeping.
Yeah, no, it's not gatekeeping. No.
People are being excluded. It's fine. It's fine. No. I'm crying on the inside. Jason knows where I'm coming from. He says, hey, 19K Fox and Console Kits, the cheater. Paul says, where the hell are you, Justin? Justin's right here. He's
here.
Right
it's because Paul was on the other stream. He was like, dude, the other show is starting.
It's like, bro, you got to go. I and also to continue the behind the scenes, I did message Justin with like a minute and a half left.
Yeah.
I did say, hey, 10 p.m. Eastern.
Right. I was like, you're right. So I've been streaming since I started my show at 6 my time, so 7 your time.
Nice. Okay, putting in the hours, putting in the work. I thought I was putting in the work, but you got me pegged this week, buddy. The Fist of Love says the Force connects us all. It connects everyone. AWOL 101. Andor is the best Star Wars show ever.
Whoa.
I added to ever, but he did have the exclamation point. So I think that's something. There's something to be said there. There's something to be said. Beach Native 78 Fox Nation. Thank you for stopping by and checking out the show. We're talking about it all tonight. If you had any questions about the show at all, full spoilers, full discussion.
Dude,
hopefully you've watched it.
Dude, we're 6 minutes in. We got to announce to everyone. Make sure you go watch the end credits, right?
Okay, you know what? Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and break into the non-spoiler or the non-spoiler review.
You can say there's end credits.
I can say there's end credits. I just want to let's just go ahead and do it. Let's give the recommendations.
Okay.
Of as far as what you thought overall the episode, maybe the season as a whole. Now's the time to binge it. There is an end credit scene that's kind of epic that I think you and I predicted partially in some small part. Overall, Justin, what do you think about the season, the show, the episode overall?
It's very interesting. So I talked to I spent 7 hours with a friend yesterday. We were doing this project together. It's kind of like what would you call it? Like charity work, basically. So 7 hours of charity work, and we were talking about Andor, and he did not know that episode 12 was the finale, and that we will not get another episode for like maybe 2 years. Because he saw the very end and he was like, "Oh, they did a really good, cliffhanger for the next episode." Yeah. I'm like, "You mean season 2?" He's like, "Well, episode 13 is coming next week, right?" I'm like, "No,
sorry, buddy, no."
Yeah. General feedback. I'm torn actually because I watched some Nerd Theory. And adopted a little. No, it's not exactly what Nerd is saying, but I appreciate his point of view. In general, Andor is fantastic.
Okay.
Fantastic. But I appreciate why some people dislike it, and I want to talk about that later.
We're going to get into all of it. We're going to do a short recap of this episode. We always got the slides. We got the visual aids. We're going to hit some of the high points. The story points are actually going to fly by pretty quick. But overall, my recommendation, the episode, I'm going to be honest with you, a little disappointing as far as the season finale. We're going to talk about it.
Dude, they spent how like a lot of the episodes are like this and then there and then there and then there and then there.
The summation, the totality of it all.
The moment the event took place, they were like all in. We're staying on this.
That was cool,
man.
Garbage. I'm not saying this is a dumpster fire of an episode by far.
Okay,
but I was disappointed.
Is it a Golden TTN monitor episode though?
For God's sakes, no. Come on, that's too far. That's a bit. That's a bridge too far. It's not that.
I'm going to take it there.
It's not. Okay, we'll go.
We're ending this episode with Andor is Golden TTN monitor, and I'll tell you why.
I can't take it that way. But anyway, overall, the episode disappointing for me. The season, it is absolutely worth a watch. These characters, the show is worth getting invested in. Really curious to see what happens next season, but overall, absolutely check it out. If you've got Disney Plus, it's over. Season 1 is over. Binge this bad boy. It's probably better to binge the whole thing.
Oh, overall. I bet there's a ton of people that are going to binge this and enjoy it way more than we did because we had it doled out. And if you don't have Disney Plus, there's always Hulu. You can watch the first 2 episodes, kind of try it out, and then come over to Disney Plus and watch the rest of it.
And MG, you're not lying. That's not.
Did you hear the rumor that this episode almost had the F word in it?
Really? No, I did not. Really? Was that just because of an editing mistake, or were there?
No.
Really?
There's a rumor that they scripted the F word in this episode.
That's a bit too far, don't you think?
I'm sure you'll have a slide on it, and I'll say
this is the
part where it's going to have the F word.
We're going to jump into it. Let's go over real quick the recap of the episode itself. We start with what is kind of disturbing. The feel, the tone, everything. You could just feel that something was off. We didn't know what this person was building, but I didn't think it was something good. So Wilman Pack? Not Pack. Anyway, his father was killed last episode. and it was a big deal. It was a big emotional thing. And so we see the distraught son putting something together. What is it? We're going to find out a little bit later, but it's not good. This is not some kind of science project for school. He's jaded. He's torn. This definitely echoes back to what we saw as far as Andor and his experience with his father. What'd you think about this?
Yeah, the moment I saw it, I was like, oh, he's building a bomb. I like where this is going. And they kept on showing other scenes, and then they'd come back to it and be like, oh, he's continuing to build a bomb. This is great.
Yep. That's the thing, is we put this together to kind of summarize it all. But yeah, they definitely cut back and forth to different points of this build. This was sort of an intense build. A lot going on.
And then the hologram, you're like, yeah, he kept on looking up at his father, and he's like,
yeah, that really drove it home for me. I think, if you had any doubts looking at this part, when he actually, his father, Solomon, looking at that as his inspiration as he builds, and you see in the
as he built it, he didn't put any Loctite on it.
You know what? And I think it would have been better. It would have been a better bomb if it was Loctited, but that's neither here nor there. I'm not going to critique it now. He was emotional. If he wasn't so emotional, Loctite would have been a key component. We have everybody, the band is definitely arriving. Everybody's on their way to Ferrix. It's the place to be.
Dude, I thought this is basically Ozfest, right? This is everyone coming together. Yeah. Maybe it was what's the other one? The big one from the 60s,
Woodstock.
Right?
Yeah,
Woodstock. This was Woodstock of Star Wars,
This predates Woodstock because this was a long time ago, right?
Oh, that's right. It's a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. So her entrance, Dedra's entrance, was really cool. The fact that it was an Imperial transport, echoing back to the first time we saw the Emperor in the original trilogy, right?
Can we foreshadow the episode, the later in the episode?
Do it.
What's up with that scene with her and Surreal, right?
Dude, we're going to talk about that in detail.
We got to talk about that.
That was weird. That was on a couple different levels.
I thought they were going to kiss.
There. Yeah, it's what, stress does that to you, right?
I'd have been fine with that. I would have been fine with that.
It would definitely been a twist for sure. But her coming in.
Do you think we'll get some Jedi love in season 2?
I think it's still too early. Still too early. It's possible. It's possible, but I think it's still too early. But her entrance was really cool. Everything was dark. It looked like she was flying in and landing at a refinery because it's a scavenger's planet, and then her showing up with a couple death troopers. She's definitely there for, she's all business. Is she overcompensating because she's
I don't know.
Woman?
This is the first episode where I was kind of attracted to Dedra, if I'm being fair.
Yeah, because she's usually very dour and very, I think, intentionally trying to look ugly or just, bland. But I was like, hey, how's it going? Lose a death trooper.
I'm
maybe
not,
get rid of those two. And
I'm not completely against the Empire these days.
I mean, I could be persuaded. So the band is all coming together. We also see this kind of cool shot of the hotel that is now the stronghold of the Empire. They kind of took this over in some of the first episodes, and we see our girl Bix is. I mean, this just looks bad. She's sitting on a mattress.
Yeah, this is true.
It's not good. It's not.
JT's got it right. Vel's greater than Dedra. That's for sure.
No argument for me.
I mean, I feel really bad for for Vel in this situation. Actually, this was they did, to be serious now, they did extend it. Episode 11, they were showing Bix in this, she was doing the walk and she was kind of leaning and
dragging herself on the wall. Right. She was obviously out of it. Yeah.
Right. But now in this episode, it was kind of like, it's very quiet. She's alone and she's kind of having this like problem, she's got some mental issues at this point.
You get a sense there's something off because she's definitely spirited, independent. I would imagine someone like that, like Bix being captured, she would be clawing at the walls, trying to figure out, how do I get out? Trying to, you totally imagine, okay, she's captured, she's plotting, she's scheming. No, she is not at all. She is just disheveled and just distraught and checked out. Mental issues, yes. Let's go ahead and check that off the list for sure. The band continues to show up, so we have a conversation saying, "Hey, listen, I talked to Andor last night, and he's I told him about his mom. He was asking about the funeral, and it's like, did you tell him not to come? Well, it was a short conversation. Okay, well that's not what I wanted to hear. But I think we all kind of knew that Andor was on his way. And of course, our buddy, and I forget his name, but he was the guy that kind of had a problem with Andor in I think episode 1 and 2.
Yeah.
He's overhearing this conversation, so he knows Andor's on the way.
I didn't really understand this because it seemed as though that guy was a traitor almost, or I don't know.
I think he was. He overhears this little conversation. Then he meets Retro Ralph, basically. And they go to the bar, and he's talking to him, and he's really poking and prodding and trying to get him to reveal that Andor's on the way. And then when he kind of does, he pretends like, hey, listen, I don't want to hear it. Listen, if you know something, I don't want to know about it. But that was basically verification. That was him saying, yeah, Andor's coming. Andor's on his way. And, he had a problem with Andor anyway. He's definitely going to alert the media, in this case, the Empire for sure. Moving on, the band, as everybody continues to show up, we also have, Dedra in street clothes being walked, taken around by her plant. He's been there for this whole time. She decides to go ahead and just walk out, take a look at the landscape, get the mood, because the funeral's tomorrow, and she wants to kind of feel the way, see how things are going, maybe get the vibe. And then close on their heels, actually Cinta right there. She's been following this guy, and she notices that there's something up with this other caped, shadowy figure. So she's definitely there for sure. We have a $2 super chat from Stringer Films. It says, binge watched this over the holiday. I need more. That's high praise, Justin. Justin, do you think that that's going to be the overall opinion of those that actually binge this first time watching? What do you think?
It's interesting because there's been a lot of topics about the whole, okay, so the season 1 is over, and now you can watch episode 1 and 2 on Hulu and Freeform, which are content providers that Disney owns. And some people say that shows weakness in Disney, saying that the show's not performing well. But I wonder if also it's just them trying to increase the reach of the audience and having more people kind of get into this content. And I've been thinking about like this idea of, maybe they should have streamed episode 1, 2, and 3. But at the same time, even as content creators here on YouTube, sometimes we'll make content that is specifically targeting a very specific topic that may not actually be of high popularity. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's okay. Yes. It's like episode 3 is pretty fantastic. And by putting episode 1 and 2 on Hulu and Freeform, it's like, look, if you like episode 1 and 2, you're going to love the rest of the episodes. We're not going to give you 3. Because
which they shouldn't. You should.
If you love episode 3, you're going to think every episode is going to be like episode 3, and it's not. But if you like episode 1 and 2, you'll love the whole thing. And so I've done that as a content creator. Like I'll make topics or shows, and it's not extravagant. It's just kind of podcasts. We're just talking about a topic.
You're going to drive traffic to your main channel. Yeah, exactly.
But you're going to grab some people that are interested in that topic,
Hopefully,
know. Right. And if you're like, if you're interested in the topic, you'll like my channel as well. So the fact that Stringer Films is like, binge watch this over the holiday, I need more. There's going to be a set of people that binge watch this and don't like it. And then they won't watch season 2 and that's fine. But there's going to be a set of people that just love the Andor, the anti-force, it just doesn't talk about it.
That's one of the selling points for me has been, I feel that Disney doesn't really know how to handle Jedi, the Force, the Sith, all that. Some of the big beats of Star Wars. I like the slow burn. I like the delving into sort of the seedy underbelly of what becomes the rebellion. I think if you stay away from the big stuff, and I know you want to bank on that because that's where the sure money is. I think you're going to find more success if you play in that sandbox. We have Biggie D saying, "Hey, I was able to finish it, and he actually loved the ending. Can't wait to see where the show goes." So. Yeah. To your point, you're right. There's going to be some people that maybe they don't like it, but I think this is something that, because of all the content out there, because of all the stuff, just the sheer volume, this could get sort of passed over. But maybe now that it's out, maybe that we get the word out, people will give it a shot and they'll binge it, right?
Yeah, they'll binge it. They'll enjoy it. And it's good that we get it out there. I know there's a lot of content creators that have bigger reach than us that
absolutely
say it's very common knowledge that it's a slow burn.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're willing to invest the time into it, here's the thing. Like, I think if you're the type of person that is fine with investing that time and they set aside that time, I think a lot of people would enjoy this. If they come in with expectation of, you're not going to get any mystical force. There's not going to be a scene where Luthen all of a sudden puts his hands up and sees something floats up. I was thinking about it the other day, or like, what if there was a scene of Luthen walking through the hallway, or he's like, and he just does a thing like this.
The doors
and
open.
And then all of a sudden a door opens, and that's it.
Yeah.
They didn't do that. They could have done that. They could have been like, oh, Luthen has some Jedi mind trick thing.
Right.
But also, like, the story is so good, it doesn't need it.
I don't think that I agree. I don't think that it does. I don't think you lean on that crutch because I don't think you need it. As long as you're understanding that this is like coming out with a new show. Yes, it has Star Wars. It has a little bit of not brand recognition, but some of the characters we've seen before. But it was in one movie that came after Episode 7. It was actually a while ago. So, you're not going to you're not going to blow the doors off this thing Episode 1. But if they can have some patience with it and stick to the writing, stick to the story, I think it could be something good.
To be fair, this is what I thought Mandalorian was going to be. So when I watched Episode 1 of Mandalorian, I'm like, oh, they were all talking about Mandalorian's not going to have any Jedi, it's not going to have any Force,
none of that
stuff.
Any of that.
Right. And then at the very end, when they revealed Baby Yoda, I'm like, oh. And then Episode 2 and 3, when Baby Yoda started doing the thing, you're like, oh, no.
What are they doing? He's doing the thing.
He's floating that monster up.
Rhinoceros is fun. Yeah.
And that was exciting, but like, they could have done that with Andor. There could have been these little scenes here and there where it's like Luthen would be the character, where it's like, all of a sudden he does a Jedi thing, but it's a secret no one else knows. So he's like a secret Jedi that like no one knew about. They didn't do that. They didn't need to do that.
I hope that they don't. If it comes out later, episode or season 3 or something,
it's still in the air. Fine. It's still possible they could throw in Luthen's a Jedi.
And for me, that would feel more earned. We have another $2 super chat, Joe, from Stringer Film saying, you think Dude's mom is cool with Deidre sleeping over? I think at this point she'd be happy if he just gets married, right, and just sort of moves away. Like, I think she wants him to just move out and move on. So
Stringer Films jumping to the season 2 episode 1. I've heard that theory actually, that season 2 episode 1 starts with Dedra being at Cyril's house, and the mom's like, what are you doing here?
She wakes up like she has like the blanket around her and she's going to the bathroom, and the mom's there with the cereal, like, oh my God, that would be great. Just the way they kick off season 2. Oh, whoops.
All right.
So I guess we'll keep cracking on. So we got Sneaky walking around looking like a Sith, actually looking very evil. And then we see, listen, we have to stop by. We have to check on Mon Mothma.
Okay.
And while I thought that she was opening up the dress to maybe get a little, sexy, a little seductive, which I'm like, hey, that's not the case. There's actually a lot going on. I think
there was a ton going on
in her and what is actually happening, but it's not. They do not spell this out. You don't really know, but if you've been watching the show, if you know Mon Mothma and what she's doing behind the scenes, she starts an argument with her husband. I don't think that he's actually gambling.
That's right.
She just said that.
You have to watch super close to figure this out. I love this.
She's opening up her.
She knows he's listening, right?
Yes. She says we need privacy, but she knows he's a spy.
She knows that the spy is specifically going to listen now.
And she is like, I'm going to start a fight with my husband, and I'm going to say something that is a lie, but I need to. And she's doing this. Why? To cover up the missing money.
That's right. Why does she blame her husband of being a gambler and says that if you want to gamble, you should go to Canto Bight and don't do it here on, where do they live in Coruscant? Why are you doing it here? Why did she say that, Fox? Why did she say that?
Throwing him off the scent, throwing him off the trail.
That's
trying to come up with a reason why she's missing money.
And why it's beautiful. This is all part of the plan.
It was slick, but you could see as much as you think that their
Biggie D
marriage
didn't pick it up.
Oh, he didn't pick it up? Oh, bro.
Yeah,
No.
It's just
Absolutely.
right under the surface. It's just right under the surface. It's right there.
As much as their marriage is contentious, I don't think she wants to do this.
100%.
But she knows
she made it out.
Do something. She has
it's
to
a
do
cover
something.
For the money transfer that they're going to do later.
I thought it was so slick.
It's to cover the gambling.
It's just like you see the length she's going to. It's just nuts. It's absolutely nuts. And to just drive that point home, we see her driver going right to the ISB, the Empire, and telling them exactly what she wanted them to think. It was
she's in full control.
She's struggling, obviously, morally with everything she's got to do. But I thought this was pretty good, Justin. And judging by your reaction, you liked it too.
Yeah, I liked it too, because in the previous episode, she said, I think I know how I'm going to do this. She had a plan, and then they revealed it. And the reason why is because they never established anything about him being a gambler. And anything they talk about Mon Mothma, they plant seeds, there's anything in there. So the fact that this is the first time you're hearing he's a gambler, it's a lie.
Yes.
It's a cover. Yes. Right. It's she's having an argument with the husband, and he's saying, I'm not a gambler, which is true.
Yes, absolutely.
But she's doing that so that the driver will listen in and say, there's money problems, there's this gambling thing. And then when the Empire starts seeing some money transferred that's actually going to the rebellion, they're like, oh, that's because the husband's a gambler.
He's got a gambling problem. Which in turn will continue to drive a wedge in their marriage. So she's sacrificing her marriage, sacrificing this guy's character for the rebellion. It's
what
crazy.
Are you going to sacrifice for the rebellion? She's willing to sacrifice her marriage.
Everything. I mean, at least her marriage at this point, maybe even a little bit more as the episode goes on. Another $2 super chat from Stringer Films, being so generous tonight, man. Thank you so much. Only 2 seasons. Last 3 episodes, 3 days before Rogue One.
Is that right? Is that what they're going to do?
I've heard only 2 seasons, and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about that part later.
They're going to connect that. Wow.
It adds to a disappointment if it's only 2 seasons, but that's later on. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that later. I hope it's not. I will say, after watching the first season, I hope it's more than 2 seasons, Justin. Man, I really hope it's more than 2 seasons, but we will continue on. So everybody's showing up at the party. We have Mon Mothma doing the the horrible things. Cinta is continuing to spy, and look, it's Vale. She stops by to say hi, really just being completely dismissed by what we can reasonably assume now is her lover, Cinta, who is incredibly cold, incredibly devoted to what she's doing in her work. Vale just gets nothing. I mean, attention, conversation even tends to be a struggle with these two, and Vale has to tell her to come away from the window. Stop this. What are you doing?
I know. Like, how often do you wish that your wife would look at you and say, "Hey, Fox, turn around, look at me"?
I would probably miss some live streams. I'm just gonna be honest with you, just
because she's all like, "Look at me."
She's like, "Come away from the window. Look at me." And once again, illustrating her devotion to the cause and her wanting to be with, Cinta.
I love this Val actress because
she's so good, right?
She's
really good.
There's all these different episodes, and she looks different. Like when she's on that planet, she looked like she was from like Willow or something.
Yeah,
like the way her hair was, like the way
very
she acted.
whimsical, Scottish.
And then she's on that scene where she's with the assistant, Luthen's assistant. She's on Coruscant. She's all, because you're in Coruscant and you're above ground. You gotta like be rich, right? So she's got that look going on. And now she's on Ferrix. She's with her girlfriend. She's got the Ferrix look, and it's like, is this the same actress? It is the same actress. She's good.
She's very good. She's very good. I mean, she plays all the roles within this, it's funny because you get the feeling that Cinta sort of doubts her dedication to the rebellion, but she's obviously playing all the dual roles. Cinta just gets to be the spy. She just gets to stay in the field, right, and play that role, while Vale is trying to do a lot. She's wearing many different hats.
And then the fact that they like made her cousin to Mon Mothma, and then she's hanging out with Mon Mothma, and she's got the Coruscant look, and it's like, this is the same character. This is a rebellion. This is someone who's seeding the rebellion, and he was a major player in this show.
Absolutely.
And I want to know, where is it going with her,
She's
with her character? I'm interested.
She's all over the place. She's jumping back and forth.
Her being somewhat attractive is definitely an incentive to continue watching.
I'm going to continue to watch based on that as well as many other factors. But that's definitely a factor.
Just one of them, for sure.
Is it fair to say that Luthen gets like the best shots in this series? So upper right-hand corner, you see he arrives in the dead of night. He doesn't go into town just quite yet, but he stands up and he peers out in the night with his binoculars. It's kind of dark here, I know, but it's definitely a cool shot. He's always got the capes and all that.
He's got the cinematic shots.
Absolutely.
When you see Luthen from afar, you feel like you're watching a movie.
It's like it's gravitas, right?
Or the scene where he's when he's talking to the informant.
Yes.
And his cape is blowing in the wind, and there's no railing on the bridge. And
the green and juxtaposed to the character he's talking to, just the camera behind. Great shot. It's just a great shot. You
know, it's funny. I saw Luthen, the actor, for the first time in an interview, and he looks like Luthen without the wig. Like that's what he looks like normal. So I kind of like that, where like Luthen without the wig is the actor, like what he normally looks like.
It's really him. That's the real Luthen. Yeah, not the face.
That's his look. And then the Luthen, that's the merchant, you know, with the wig, that's like a character, and it feels like a different actor almost. And then, of course, despite all good common logic, Andor shows up on Ferrix as well. He makes a stop at the wall. Now, if you remember some of the episodes back, they talked about how when someone dies, they become a brick, and then they find a place in this wall, and that's how you're remembered. It's not so much a grave, you're a part of this wall. And he visits a part of the wall that has the brick that holds the remains of his father, and he has this cool flashback. Powerful scene.
Absolutely.
Really I sat there and was like, is he really? Oh my gosh, he's touching the brick of his father. Because they had only just recently established that Mon Mothma has turned, or not Mon Mothma, I'm sorry, Marva is turned into a brick. And I had not yet concluded that his father is now a brick. I'm just imagining his father's still hanging. And then when he touches that, it's like, oh.
Yep.
Right.
He's stopping by his father's grave, and then he's about to be what we think at this time he's going to go to his mother's funeral. Not exactly the case. People are still coming to the party, Justin. We have other people showing up. So
what is up
I don't know, dude.
The hat exchange?
I was going to ask you because I really don't know. It starts off, this is the scene. This is the first part of that scene where you have Cyril looking at, I guess, his hat. I don't know if it's his hat or if it's Sarge's hat. What do you think?
I was super interested in this, and I was scrolling through YouTube because, as I mentioned in the previous show I was on, I'm evidently obsessed with YouTube.
You're a consumer.
Yeah. So I'm consuming and I'm scrolling through, and there's this content creator called Generation X. No, that's the guy that makes hate videos about me. What's the, let's see, Generation Tech. I'm sorry. I think it's his name, Generation Tech. So he made a video, and it's like, what's up with the hat exchange? And so he broke it down, and this is the best exclamation that I've ever heard. You know,
lay it on me.
The explanation. Well, I can't even say the word. I think
the explanation.
Explanation. I should not be live streaming.
Alcohol is good. It's great for.
I finally went too far. I know my limit now. Okay, anyway.
We've only there.
He says that before they exchange the hats, they're wearing their own hat.
Gotcha.
What they did was they switched. It's like, you wear my hat, I'll wear your hat.
Okay.
Because if I'm wearing your hat, you will recognize me in a crowd.
Okay.
And if you're wearing my hat, I'll recognize you in a crowd.
It makes sense.
I guess
it makes sense.
It's weird.
He's looking at his, and I gotta to be honest, I like that they don't explain everything. I do like some of these funny little things.
it just happens.
It just sort of happens, and you have to figure out why.
That's right.
It's almost like he's looking at his hat, And Sarge is there, like, knowing, okay, maybe he's looking over. He's like, you know what? Maybe he doesn't like his hat. Maybe I'll just, because I love him, because there's obviously some kind of a very, like, a huge respect, right?
For
He's like, well,
sure, for sure.
maybe I'll just give
That we
him.
can agree on.
I'll just give it. He doesn't like his hat. I'm just going to give him my hat. And then
They
Cyril
just
just
exchange
accepts
hats.
it. I don't know. And he just goes with it. But it could be, maybe that's a better, I think yours might be better. Hey, they might recognize you in a crowd. Let's swap hats. I don't know. But anyway, they swap hats. It's kind of a weird scene. No explanation. Kind of cool to think about. We have Deidre. This is the morning of the funeral. So Deidre's looking at the hologram. Everybody's talking about, hey, this is what's going on. They wanted to have it at the funeral at noon, I believe is what he said. But we pushed it back a couple hours because after lunch, everybody's a little more docile. They're concerned that the crowd could get a little unruly, and a little bit fired up. And so they're trying to mitigate their risk. That's what they're concerned about. And then once again, Luthen has just the best shots. Look at this shot of this ship and everything. He's about to get on a speeder. Absolutely sick.
Yeah. They spent definitely some money on special effects on episode 12.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this was the first time that we saw that his ship in more of a full frame.
Yep.
And he gets on that speeder and flies away. And that sequence was a little bit longer than I expected, in a good way. Like they spent time on it. And this scene, and then there's some space scenes. There's a lot of different scenes that show ships in this particular episode. In the previous episode, I wish they could show more of that. Maybe it's super costly.
It probably is, I guess.
I mean, maybe they can figure out a way to stretch it out a little bit more, because every second counts. But like this scene with him going off in the speeder, because remember Mandalorian, there would be scenes where he's just like, or even Book of Boba Fett, like he's just on the speeder for like minutes. And right. They keep like him training, and that was actually kind of cool, right? Mm-hmm. Like, but it was cool that we got this. Yeah.
Well, I think that, and you turned me on to this. I watched it the first time just straight through, no commentary, nothing like that. And then I watched it a second time with the audio descriptions on.
Yeah.
And then the narrator says that the ship is actually changing its profile. As Luthen walks off the ship, the wings kind of come up like this, and it said it's reducing its silhouette. So it's like I'm like, are you kidding me? So as he's leaving,
descriptions are so awesome.
They're so good, because you kind of get a peek into maybe what the director, what the showrunner, what the people were actually thinking, the writers were thinking when they compose a scene. To me, it looked like a cool scene. He's walking off the ship, and the wings are kind of setting themselves at, parked mode, whatever. And then he gets on a speeder and flies away. But they're talking about the reduced signature, so that if overhead ships fly, they're not going to be able to detect that that's a ship. I thought that was really cool. We have another $2 super chat from Stringer Films, laying out them dollar bills. Yo, says Justin's bitter because episode 12 cut into his bonus. Not good. Not good.
Stringer doesn't know how real that comment was.
Stings a little bit. So make sure you super chat. This guy right here, he's hurting. It's he can't quite make ends meet. Moving on. This is when pieces begin to fall in place. Now, real quick, up top, upper left-hand corner, we find out that Mr. Krieger was actually, I think this was a good point to hit, even though it seemed sort of, not off the cuff, but something they kind of gloss over. Krieger died. All those guys died. It was real. It wasn't like they just swept it under the rug.
Yeah.
They betrayed them. I mean, Luthen betrayed them and let them all die.
It was kind of interesting. They didn't show any of that. It's like the perspective of this entire episode, the last few episodes talking about Krieger. You saw it where he's with, Luthen is with Saw Gerrera. They're talking about Krieger. The Empire, Dedra is talking about Krieger. And then the only thing we ever saw of Krieger, if I'm correct, is a hologram showed to Bix to be like, is this Axis, essentially?
Yes.
And they couldn't connect the dots that Luthen is Axis. They thought maybe it was Krieger. And then there's this conversation about 50 people are going to die and Krieger's going to die. And evidently that all took place, and they never showed it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not mad about that. That's interesting. It's they just kind of talked about this 50 people, 51 people maybe.
I will say this. I think it's important that we see the sacrifice that these guys are abandoned to show the lengths that Luthen will go to maintain his relationship with Saul Guerrera, because he lets him know, hey, listen, I'm purposely letting these people die, but I'm giving you a heads up so you don't die too. Also, the fact that he saves the character in that actual picture, the guy in the middle, to maintain his cover, it lets these other people die. But I got to tell you, when you look back at the season, this is my first point of disappointment. When we look back at the season, it would have been better to cut some of the other filler out and have this space battle to drive the point home, and honestly to have a real space battle where we see Krieger and his guys die. I think it would have been a better way to allocate. Was the budget there?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah, it would have been cool to see.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe to do that, they would have to invest in those characters, because if they just randomly show scenes of a fight about people you don't even know, maybe you have no connection.
That's a good point too.
But this show has also showed that you don't have to invest very many episodes in a character for you to care about them. So the director is very good at being like, hey, here's this brand new character. Like, think about when the episodes where here's Nemik. The first episode, I remember watching the first episode, and you see the entire crew, including Nemik, and you're like, I thought to myself, there's no way I'm going to keep track of any of these people's names.
Yeah, I'll remember the name. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then episode 2, you're kind of like, okay, you get the backstory. And by episode 3, you're like, okay, that's Nemik. Oh my God, he died. Oh my God, I want to cry.
Right. You felt that weight.
It's pretty good.
And they accomplished that 3 episodes?
Yeah, he barely had any screen time, but you still felt the impact of when the money crushed him. So, I mean, maybe they could have done that with a backstory. Like, all of a sudden they're showing Krieger.
You could have sprinkled that in. There could have been conversations where we see a hologram conversation, but from Krieger's perspective. The camera's in Krieger's ship, and so you see Krieger and the bustling activity and the people and the players and his pilot, and you see you feel that weight a little bit more.
Could have shown a scene of Luthen saying, Krieger talks to Luthen, and we're like, are we go for the mission? And he says, yes.
Great point.
And Luthen, that Luthen is basically telling him to go forward to die.
And you see that hesitation, and you see that within Luthen, and you see that he knows he needs to do it, but it's still a struggle. So it shows you a little bit more about
Here's
Luthen.
What's cool. We're asking for more. That's not a bad thing.
No, I don't think it's a bad thing. Like I said, disappointed, yes. Jaded, no, because I think that this is what happens when you get invested, right? You're going to set yourself up for high praise and also some disappointment. Continuing on, we have Brasso meeting up with, Andor. The whole time I'm like, guys, what are you doing? I'm sweating it. I'm like, man, they're meeting underground. You just think that at some point they're going to be wise to what's going on. But Andor's there. Brasso's meeting with him, and he's like, listen, I know you wanted to be here for Marva. I know you did, but listen, she said you would say all this. She knew that you were going to go through this, but she wanted me to let you know that you have all you need. You're the man you need to be. You just need to realize that and fulfill that. And when the time comes, you're going to be a great force for good. And then basically, this is also where Andor learns that Bix is imprisoned in that hotel, and Brasso's going to take care of Marva's remains.
Yeah, I didn't catch that. Like every single time they showed Bix being tortured, I didn't realize she was actually still on Ferrix. Maybe I missed that, or maybe they did that on purpose.
Possible. Well, it's shot in such a way. I mean, it's difficult to see. I mean, where she's at looks like some sort of a dungeon. It doesn't look like a hotel and that's exactly what it is. It's something that was sort of taken over by the Empire.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. But I kept on thinking I missed something. But when Bix was like near the window and could kind of hear the Marv funeral, I was like, oh, she really is. They just arrested her and took her into that hotel. That's it. She was being tortured in the hotel. Yeah. I mean, it was kind of cool. Yeah. I'm not upset about it, but when that scene happened, I was like, oh, okay, she's right there, which
exactly
actually makes a lot of sense, because then she can be saved, because she's. It's not. I thought she was on another planet or something, or she was orbiting. She was in a ship that was like orbiting the planet.
Now
or something.
that would have been like in a Star Destroyer orbiting Ferrix.
That's what I assumed.
That would have been
when
sick,
they showed
right?
her before. I figured they took her up on a orbit, up into orbit.
Yeah, Jason. Yeah, she's on planet. She was in the hotel actually there. We just we didn't, and I think it's easy to get that sort of confused, but yeah, she's still there. And you know who else is there? And this was kind of trippy. This is kind of weird when you think about it. And if sort of a blink and you miss it type thing, Luthen is making his way through town, and he's standing on these steps, and look who just passes right by him. Look who just walks right by Luthen. It's Cyril and Sarge just walk right by him, right there on the steps. And then, of course, finally, Luthen meets up with Vale, who was almost sort of surprised that he was there. They have this conversation, and basically we find out again, and we've heard this before, but Luthen's like, great, everybody else is going to do all the hunting for us. They're going to want Andor alive so they can question him. And as soon as they find him, we can kill him. But let me ask you this, Justin. Did you believe that Luthen was really going to kill Andor?
Well, I was definitely curious about how that would play out because, I mean, it doesn't, obviously he can't kill Andor, right? Because we know that Andor dies in the later movie.
It's alive, yeah, but.
Right, but I wasn't completely, like when they said earlier that we got to close loose ends, I felt the loyalty between Luthen and Vel and her team, and that there wasn't the same level of loyalty between Andor and Luthen and Vel. And so it did make sense that they're like, okay, he's not a part of us. We hired him, but he knows too much. We got to get rid of him. Mm-hmm. They're willing to let 50 people go with Krieger. Who's Andor? Who cares, right?
Exactly.
And so the fact that they were after him, the fact that he went to Ferrix for the funeral for the purpose of trying to kill Andor, it makes sense because Andor holds information in his head that could ruin everything.
For some reason, and I know we've seen Luthen, Krieger and Krieger's men, allow them to go and to be killed. For some reason, I thought that he really had a problem with killing Andor. Now, I know that he doesn't actually kill Andor, but they could have done this a couple different ways. Let's say Luthen was going to kill Andor. We know he doesn't die, but Luthen decides, I'm going to kill Andor. So him and Vale are standing there, and Luthen's getting ready to pull the trigger, and Vale kills Luthen because of their their past. They were together on that mission.
Vale's Andor's sister, maybe.
Vale's Andor's sister, could be anything, right? Or once again, Luthen standing there, and Vale is about to kill Andor, and Luthen kills Vale. I never thought that Luthen's life was in danger from Vale or Luthen. I'm sorry, Andor's life was in jeopardy from Vale or Luthen. I felt, I don't know, they didn't come across.
Well, yeah, because the end of Andor, for sure. Yeah. And I agree. I will say about this episode, I was kind of hoping or expecting that there would be a shocker moment where it's like Luthen or Dedra or Cyril tries to kill Andor, and then something bad happens as a result. Because we know Andor survives. We obviously don't know. Yeah. We can assume Andor's dead, Cyril's dead, Vel's dead, Dedra's dead.
Everybody else is
they can
dead,
all die, but Andor can't die. Andor dying breaks canon, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But spoiler alert, they all lived. This episode was interesting because nobody died.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. We have another $2 super chat though from the Stringer Films saying, "I can't wait to see B2 Emo turn into K2SO."
He binged it, and he's already making. He's like, B2 Emo is going to become K2SO.
Excited. People are into it. They're digging it. And we got to keep going. There's more to discuss. We have here is the climax of the episode. We see Marv embodied in this brick. They're making their way through the town. We see, it's really more of the tension And for the most part, the tension I didn't have a problem with. They did a decent job of building the tension. You have Empire with the show of force because the funeral starts, before they allowed it to. So they're taken aback. They're taken off. That catches them off guard. So they're unsettled by that. The Empire shows up. They put some guards out there. Show of force. The funeral procession begins. One thing I had a problem with. Look at the upper right hand corner. Andor is just at this point he's sneaking around and he's trying to get to Bix to rescue Bix. He's right there. I mean, okay, we're gonna get to my gripes about the episode in a minute, but he's right there. Everybody in the whole planet is looking for him. Everybody in this town is like, and you just want to peek your head out real quick. Hey guys, and just like, where's Waldo? That was crazy. But I think, and I want to commend you on this point. Marv's hologram, okay, she's passed on. The hologram to be played at her funeral does exactly what Justin Console Kits said, and it does. It's a call to arms. It's an inspiring speech. It gets everybody fired up. And before she can 100% complete her speech, the inciting event, the thing that really pisses everybody off and causes a conflict is that the main officer there throws his coat over the hologram projector before she can get all of her words out, and that's the last straw. What do you think about all this stuff going on here?
So it was great. One of my favorite content creators in the Star Wars space right now, because the YouTube algorithm keeps on feeding me his content, and every time I click on it, it's good because he has a main channel, Generation Tech, and he has a clip channel that basically has 1 or 2 minute segments of his thoughts, and they're very, very good. He's the one that did a video recently that said he believes, or there's rumors that the original script by Tony Gilroy, she did not say fight the Empire.
Oh, okay.
She said F the Empire.
Not fight. The other F word.
Like, imagine you're watching Disney
freaking
Plus,
Empire,
and the moment everyone flips out, instead of her saying "fight the Empire," she says "F the Empire," and everyone flips out.
Loses their
I don't
mind.
know if it's true, but I like the story. I think it's a very interesting story. That was the original script,
funny.
And Disney was like, "No, fight the Empire."
Yeah,
and I want to believe that actress actually said the F word when she was filming, and later they had to dub it in.
Yeah. Yes.
Or
yes.
frack the Empire.
Exactly.
Right?
Frack the Empire. Yes.
Right.
Fracking. Yeah.
It was fantastic.
I think
the scene was great.
It's
and
funny.
I wish I could, when I die, can I become a brick? That's what I was thinking. Like, just,
I think you can. I think
sure that's actually a pretty cool tradition.
I think it's cremation, and then you're cast into some sort of form. Yeah.
Most people are cremated these days. Why not put you in a brick?
Why not?
And put you in a building? That's kind of cool.
Why would you want to be scattered amongst the wind when you can be a part of a structure that supports
like a community
something greater than ourselves, right?
Imagine you lived in the same city for your entire life, and you get to be a part of Rick's Road. Yeah.
Or Chicago, or pick a town, right? Pick a city.
It's one of the reasons why I really love this series. That scene, the fact that she's the daughter of Ferrix, and when she died, she's basically cremated and turned into a brick. The scene where Andor's essentially adopted father is a brick, he touches it, there's this emotional connection. We, as people that have loved ones that die, we have an emotional connection, but we don't know about this idea of you can go back to your hometown and touch a building, and that's your adopted father. That's kind of interesting. And then like them going to the prison, right? And the floor is lava basically is happening at the
pretty much, yeah.
That was really cool. I mean, how many shows out there where you can name a handful of things where you're like, that's freaking cool storyline. Like someone wrote that. Someone wrote, okay, Marva dies and she is cremated into a brick. Okay, Andor touches a brick and that reveals him mourning over his adopted father. The floor is lava in the prison.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool. I don't know. Like, I've never heard of any book or any story that it feels original to me. Like, maybe someone's going to be like, don't you know the 1600s they wrote this book that they totally ripped it off, but that's new, fresh to me.
I'm sure that's possible, but I mean, you know, aren't we all just another brick in the wall? Thank you, Stringer Phillips. Again, $2. We don't need no education. Absolutely. So, you're not going to finish your pudding. I know. Continuing on with this episode, though, this is when we finally see the device that was built in the beginning of the episode implemented. It's thrown, and what does it do? Does it kill a main character? Is Luthen? Is Dedra killed? Is someone taken out by the bomb? No, it blows up a transport, and that sort of affects a bunch of people, but nobody's really taking out by the bomb. This is where that could have had much more weight if the thing that we see being constructed takes out a big character. Obviously not Andor, but
it's fair.
Somebody,
it's fair.
You know, I think that's probably one of my criticisms.
It still disrupted the entire. People were able to escape.
Mm-hmm. It reverberated. It definitely had an effect beyond just the thing that it blew up. I agree.
And I hope your next slide is Dedra. Oh wait, it's right there.
It's right there. So this is
it was rare... kind of a corny scene, but at the same time, I was like, I like it.
I don't think it is. What's the one thing that we haven't seen from her? Vulnerability.
Oh, it was so good. Why did you save me? Oh, I was.
I
was sitting there like, is he gonna kiss her? It would be cheesy if he kissed her.
Justin is reeling. I'm gonna just set the scene for you. So bomb goes off. They were already skirmishing and fighting. Not the rebels, but just the townspeople and then the Empire, sort of becoming hysterical to say the least. Dedra charges in with all of her bravado and confidence and is immediately knocked to the side, and she drops her blaster. She's kind of getting trampled, and she's beginning to really panic. Someone grabs Dedra out of nowhere, puts a pistol to the back, her blaster, puts it to her back. She's rushed into this room, this whatever, goes in there, door shuts behind her. She grabs whatever she can find, puts it to the throat of her captor, and it's cereal.
It's so great.
And it's like, the actress, her face, Justin, let it flow.
Just the look on her face when that scene happened, right? She was in complete shock. And they spent several seconds just showing Cyril and Dedra just looking at each other. And I don't know, man. All I could think is David McIntosh is in love with what's that girl from Arcade 1-Up? I can't remember her name.
Liv.
It's freaking Liv. It's Liv and David. It's like they've been working together in marketing. They've been hating each other this entire time, and then they get together, and Liv's like, "I love you, David."
What was really going on? Her real internal monologue was really just. What the F? I mean, why the hat? Good callback, MG.
That's good, MG. Yes. That's what her look was. Why the hat?
What's up with the hat? So
why are you wearing Michael B's hat?
That's the scene we needed from Dedra to see a moment of vulnerability, and it's. I don't know where they're going with this, because he already had kind of a weird devotion, we thought, just to the Empire, but maybe a connection to Dedra. Not exactly sure. This is going to do nothing but, encourage him to keep on with the creepiness, because it's going to happen for sure. We also see another connection. We see Andor and Bix finally come together, and he gets her out of there, gets her on a ship with Brasso and everybody else. And then it's just like, okay, see you guys. Andor doesn't go with them, Justin.
Yeah, that's very interesting. What I did like about all of this setup is there's 12 episodes. Mm-hmm. Throughout all the episodes, they introduced all these different characters. They had all these kind of trilogy episodes, if you will. They did 3 episodes. They introduced Surreal and Michael B. In David McIntosh and Michael B. in episode 1, 2, and 3. We're kind of seeing those things. And then here we are at episode 10, all the main players except for what's his name? Kino.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Kino can't swim.
He's still there. He can't swim.
Right. And then the one dude is gonna go, his buddy that shows up on Rogue One, he's off doing something else. But pretty much they've collected main characters, fantastic actors and actresses along the way. And they're basically saying all these people that are getting on the ship, they're totally in season 2.
I think so.
Which I love. Which I love. It's like
with baggage, with baggage, shock and awe. They've gone through some stuff, right? Not just war, but some emotional baggage. You obviously Bix and what she's gone through. The young man who built the bomb to avenge his father. There's obviously a lot of stuff going on there. Brasso and what he's been going through, and the fact that he's really just a scavenger. He's a factory worker, really, not a warrior. So that's going to.
But remember when we made this series, our podcast, episode 1, 2, and 3, we had a screen that was like, here's all these little avatar pictures of all the characters. And then I remember when we did our show and it was like episode 4 and we're like, where's Bix and Brasso? Yeah. Like we thought Brasso were going to learn more about it. And then as it continued on, we thought, Brasso's out of the game. He's not even in the show anymore. And here he is at episode 12. It looks like he's going to be in season 2.
I think so.
And it made sense because they all did have screen time and they had some established characters. And I'm excited for season 2. I really like how episode 12 played out, where, everyone was there. It was a party of all the interesting people, minus
everybody showed up. Yeah.
Hopefully Kino is in season 2 as well, though.
We have another $2 super chat from the Stringer Film saying, just like the Hound saved Sansa before the Gang B. It's a good point. That's a good parallel to draw for sure. Rescuing her before all that happens. And then Hobby Hands with a $5 super chat. Brother, thank you so much. My theory. Here we go. Fan theory. I love it. The very last scene of this series will have Andor in the alley from Rogue One. Remember that?
That would be cool. You know what? If they do that, do you know what that means? Do you know what that means?
What does that mean?
You could watch Andor episode 1 all the way to season 2, all the way to Rogue One, and then into A New Hope.
That would be sick. That would be
I hope they connect. That would be cool. Scene by scene, you could watch the whole thing.
A direct, not implied, not okay, next year. No, directly connecting directly to the movie in such a way that there's no gap, right? There's no way to add to it.
I love that idea. I hope they do that.
It'd
be kind of cool.
That's like a ballsy
they end
take.
The entire season with
like
maybe it's the end credit is like him walking down the alley.
And then he meets that guy. Boom, cut to black.
Yeah.
And then you know exactly where the story picks up.
Yep.
That's pretty awesome. We also
it.
see something else from Mon Mothma and her family sort of come to fruition. Something we were, I don't know, but you just kind of hoping, I was hoping this really wasn't going to happen, but it looks like her sacrifices continue. This was unnerving, unsettling. Justin, what do you think about this?
It's weird because we talked about this last week. It's the daughter likes the traditions. So here's the thing. I don't really know what to think about it because the mother doesn't like the outcome of the tradition, how she's with the husband.
Yes.
But we don't know how Mon Mothma felt when she was 13.
Yes.
And it may be the case, and I appreciate this as having a 14-year-old child. Like, I'm definitely not in a situation where there's an arranged marriage or anything like that.
Yes.
But the thing that makes me feel I'm okay with this is the daughter is like, loves it. Like, loves the traditions of the old times and doesn't... and I wonder if this is what Disney did on purpose, like maybe in the writing or whatever. They were like, you can't have it where the teenage daughter is fighting and screaming about Mon Mothma forcing her into this meetup that turns into an arranged marriage. Like, you can't do that. That's going to be controversial. That's going to feel cringy. It's going to be
It would
crazy.
make you hate Mon Mothma, and that's not what you want the audience to do. Yeah, I agree.
But if the daughter is like gets all of her friends over, and they start doing these rituals that are part of this like tradition that Mon Mothma doesn't really believe in, but it's a part of Coruscant tradition or whatever. And the daughter's totally into it. And if they show in season 2 that the daughter and the boy like get along, like, is there anything wrong with it? It's kind of funny because I'll tell you, I worked for this company, and we hired this guy. He was a fantastic QA guy, and he was Indian, and he was on an H-1B visa, and he became really close friends with all of his coworkers. And after about 2 years, he was all like, "Hey, I'm going back to India for a month," and we're like, "What's you doing?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm getting married." And we're like, "To who?" We're like, "To who? Who?
Yeah.
Who?" Because we're like going out with beers with this guy all the time. Who are you dating, right? And he's like, "Oh, it's an arranged marriage." He's like, "I don't even know who she is, but my family set it up." We're like, "Okay." And
at this point, he didn't know who that was? Oh, that's crazy.
He didn't know. So then, but he goes, "But here it is. This is like 2018 or something like that. And there's the internet and everything." And he goes, "I'm going to spend a couple weeks. Will you join the live stream of our wedding?" He says to me and a couple other coworkers. And we're like, "Yeah, dude, we're friends with the guy." So we're staying up like 2:00 in the morning or whatever to watch this dude's wedding in India, like straight up comes out on an elephant and everything, an arranged marriage. And then not weeks later, we meet her in Colorado. Because she moves out, and because they're married, she can move out, and he's got a visa, and she's awesome, and they're totally in love, like straight up, like passionate love.
Okay.
And so it was kind of like, and we're asking him like, "So what do you think about this arranged marriage?" He goes, "Well, I meant to go meet her, and I fell in love with her. She's amazing. Her family is amazing. Our family gets along." And he's like this nerdy software developer guy in India.
With a purpose, right? It's like not just dating in general, but if you both, I guess, are like-minded, it makes sense.
It's possible that there's oppression related to, arranged marriages. But personally, I know a situation where the dude couldn't be happier.
I think that this is, honestly, I think this is a portion of this. I think that the daughter understands and knows that maybe Mon Mothma, her mother, isn't 100% into the tradition. I think she could be pursuing the tradition in spite of her mother as a way to rebel.
Oh,
possible.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think,
very much a possibility. Yes. And also, Mon Mothma just hates her husband, which has nothing to do with her daughter.
Pretty much, yeah. pretty much. Absolutely. We have another $2 super chat from Stringer Films, just like Sansa before the Ramsey Bolton G Bang. I'm not sure exactly what he's talking about, but driving that point home for sure. So we have that wrapping up. Not Mon Mothma's turn to the dark side, but definitely she's sacrificing her marriage. She's pseudo-sacrificing her daughter in a way which we hope is not horrible, but if nothing else, she's compromising maybe a position she wanted to take, maybe a position that was not arranged marriage, right? But then we have the finale, which is basically the final conflict of the episode. It's not the bombs, it's not the fights in the streets, it's not that. It's actually this right here, the final confrontation between Andor and Luthen. Andor sneaks on the stealth ship and confronts Luthen. Luthen, this is on his ship. He's about to get in the cockpit and take off. And Luthen says, listen, I'm sorry, Andor says, so you came here to kill me. Listen, I'll give you two choices, Luthen, and there's my gun right there. Kill me or take me into the fold, take me into the rebellion, accept me. And then we see Luthen pick up the pistol, the blaster. What does he do, Justin? Obviously doesn't kill him.
he just smiles. End scene. Here's what I love about all of this, dude. Like, watch a lot of TV, watch a lot of movies. I'm telling you, man, was this scene predictable? Did you know it was coming? You go back 5 minutes. Did you think Andor was going to meet up with Luthen? You go back previous to that. Did you know that any of the scenes that we talked about, this show is not predictable.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see the outcome, it's not like, oh, you went way over in left field. It's like, no, it makes sense. This is why I like the show. I really like the show. It's like, I just sat there and watched it and was like, what? He's facing his monster. He's facing the enemy. He's going into the belly of the beast and saying, you're out to kill me. If you're going to do it, just do it. Or take me in. I'm the hero that you need. He didn't say that, but that was the implication.
Could be any more committed than he is now. I have nothing. I want to take on. I want to take on the rebellion. JT, this is an interesting point. Did anyone pick up that the ship's AI didn't rat out Andor when Luthen arrived?
Didn't think about that.
Didn't think about that either.
Maybe Andor's sneaky.
Maybe he's sneaky. Is there something else to the AI? Remember, Andor has been on this ship before.
Yeah.
Probably why he was able to sneak on there. I don't know. That's an interesting point. And now that I think about it, JT, so when Luthen walks into the cockpit and we see the AI camera or whatever sort of look up, I assumed it was looking up at Luthen. Was it looking up at Andor? I don't know.
Maybe he also didn't think he was a threat.
That's a really good point too.
Paul brings up the point the end credit scene was predictable, but to be fair, that could be true. Could be true. But sometimes it makes sense to make it predictable.
Do you want to go ahead and why don't we show it? So that's the end of the series as the main show, but there was an end credit scene. Star Wars Theory basically kind of ruined it a little bit in his thumbnail. I thought that was a little bit like, what are you doing? But then again, I guess that's going to make you click on it. But here's a portion. Here's the other part of that end credit scene that maybe you haven't seen before, and this completely illustrates the connection that Justin and I made between the prison scene and this end scene.
Yeah, and everyone wanted this connection, right?
This is it, right? We were talking about the octagon construction. This is the pieces that they were making on that planet. And what is this? Those are solar panels. This is a part of a bigger component.
I think this was exactly what you wanted it to be.
I think it's exactly what I want it to be.
Yeah, because you were like, it's either this or the X-wing, and you were like, no. I think it's going to be a thing that connects the solar panels.
This is an octagonal construction of boom, the main weapon in the Death Star.
That's probably $1 million picture right there.
It's so good. I can't lie.
The telescoping of the separation of the parts above the Death Star.
But you can see these components being fabricated, coming together. And remember, in Rogue One, we see this being it's being pushed into the Death Star by like Star Destroyers, the completed assembly, right? We see that going in, being installed. So this being constructed makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think you called this.
I love this. Is a great shot.
But you probably didn't call how amazing the scene was. There's another speculation. I haven't seen the videos, but I've seen the thumbnails. There's a guess of what planet that is. And I think I saw a thumbnail that said an arrow pointing at and saying Scarif, is that Scarif or something?
You think it's Scarif? I know they end up in Scarif at the end of Rogue One, but it was being constructed. Is this Corellia? No, no, not Corellia.
Paul has a fantastic comment.
Which one? Oh, about contractors building the prisoners. Maybe the droids were. This was the super weapon that was being constructed by the droids, but the contractors were building the rest of it. Absolutely. Disappointments. I'm going to go ahead and say it right off the bat. Disappointed because not much of consequence happens. With what we saw before, and I touched on this a little bit, we had the 3-act structure. We had the 3-episode sort of wave we saw where we had a peak and then a valley and a peak and a valley. They deviated from that some, and I hope that we would see something happen more of some major consequence in episode 12. And despite the bomb making, I mean, that's your first missed opportunity. The bomb being made, all the effort being put into it, it either kills somebody, of consequence on the Empire side, or it inadvertently kill somebody of good, right? Of consequence on the good side. Maybe it inadvertently killed Brasso or Bix or somebody, and that's a
So
whole different dynamic,
you're
right?
not liking the episode because you wish someone
I
died.
wish someone would have died. I something, because if you just look at it, if you lay it out on a piece of paper,
Marva died.
everybody, well, she died like off screen,
That's
and
true.
we saw that
There
coming.
was
If you look at it on paper, everybody shows up. There's a funeral. One guy throws a bomb. Everybody leaves. I know it's not that simplistic. I know we saw some good acting, but you know what I'm saying? If it's a season ender, if it's a finale, I wanted to see something a little bit different. I
You
think
can make anything sound horrible.
I think
so
that
Darth Vader,
but they could have been more.
Darth Vader storms into a ship. Some
How
droids
dare you?
go down to
How
a
dare
planet.
you, Justin?
He then talks to this lady who
talks to a lady.
Ladies, she's really the princess, right, but he blames her. It's like, no, like you talk down to content like that, you can make anything sound horrible. But I hear what you're saying. No one died, right, but also everybody lived, so they're going to be in season 2, and all the important characters are
knowing where I'm coming from. Knowing I'm a person that enjoyed the series. I appreciated the great acting, the phenomenal special effects, and the visuals, and all that, and some of the weight that we saw, and we got in some of these scenes. Yeah, it's.
I know what would have fixed it.
They
should have shown Krieger dying. Because then someone would have died, but it would have just been someone they introduced, and then they killed him.
It's not my irrational bloodlust, okay?
He just wants blood.
It's something of consequence. Maybe to see a main character die is just an example. It could have been something a little bit different. Maybe we see a swing. What if Andor is caught and interrogated by the Empire, and for a moment we think he's going to side with the Empire in some way?
They did show
informant,
someone die. Didn't the informant guy die? And then there was a character that got they showed it. They actually, Ralph died. There you go. Ralph died.
He did. True.
You're like, Ralph dying wasn't enough for me. No, the guy that was friends, he wasn't Bix. He wasn't Bix, or he wasn't Brasso, but he was a minor. Retro Ralph was very much a minor character.
I think you know what I'm saying, though. For a season finale, I think I wanted a cliffhanger, a major death, or some kind of switch of sides. Maybe what if Cyril accepted, became an ally with the rebellion? You know what I mean?
That would have been amazing.
Major switch. I think
all that's going to happen in season 2.
I hope so, but it's
something's going to happen.
At the end, it's like he's asking to be accepted into the rebellion, which is kind of. I mean, I don't know. I didn't feel like there was a real
they've
threat.
Never revealed Dedra's motivation. We don't know why she is who she is, but she's a main character of the Empire.
What if she's
just doing a job? There could be, she could flip.
That's a good point. That's a good point, because we know nothing of her. What if she was an agent of Darth Maul? Or what if
they could go anywhere?
I mean, you know what I mean? What if she has some weird, wicked motivation or something? I don't know.
We do know Cyril, he cares about justice. And so he can be switched when he realizes the Empire is terror. It's not, what's the other word I'm looking for?
It's not virtuous.
He's looking at Dedra and seeing like justice and correctness,
but it's really tyrannical.
It's tyrannical.
The Empire,
and so he could be persuaded, and maybe Dedra, maybe they actually do fall in love. It's a really interesting thing. I never thought throughout this, even with the weird, creepy scenes, that there would be a love interest. But I'm kind of hoping season 2, Dedra and Cyril have some weird love affair, because I think it would be really funny.
Right. It could be something where she, I mean, I don't know. She seems just so cold and stark. But if she has some soft spot for him, it becomes a weakness of her. I don't know.
I've heard some people talk about the idea that not any of this about them having a child. Someone in the comment mentioned that them having a child.
Who knows?
They talk about how so they're showing Surreal's home life. Surreal's supposed to be a bad guy.
Yeah.
And they show him talking to his mom. And the mom is all like, nah, 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 nah. And he literally, there's a scene where Surreal starts crunching on the cereal more to drown out his mother. He's a bad guy.
And they want us to sympathize with him so much.
Right. So it's just really cool and interesting how a story would have you. And technically, Star Wars has always done it. Anakin is a sympathetic character. Yeah, he's evil. But episode 1, 2, and 3 showed that he was normal, and then he turns back to the light side. And that moment where Luke Skywalker takes off his mask, Darth Vader, and it's his father, and he's like, "Tell your sister you were right about me." You know, all of that was like this redemption scene that a bad guy can have, like, be normal. He became humanized, right?
One of the most powerful scenes in cinematic history for me.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And Surreal, right on that level.
Shut your mouth. We're going to switch to a $2 super chat from Krieger Phelps so I can move on beyond that. In season 2, Darth Vader stops by for cereal. That's that would be. I could deal with that.
P-Dubs has a message, and I don't know if he's still in the chat, but
P-Dubs, I'm sorry we didn't get to this comment sooner, but I'll give you my take. Justin will give you his. Okay, without any spoilers, I only made it through 3 episodes. Is it worth it to watch the whole season? Even though I wasn't blown away by the finale, it is definitely worth watching the whole season through. I hope that some of my issues will be resolved in season 2, but man, there's some great acting. There's some phenomenal visuals. There's tons of stuff here to get excited about. Don't expect lightsabers. Don't expect the Force. Don't expect that kind of stuff. The magic is not there. This is nitty gritty, seeing what these characters had to go through to become the rebellion that takes down the Empire. Justin, what do you think about that?
Give me 1 second before I answer that question.
He's going to pour a drink and give you. He's going to tell you exactly what he thinks.
Hold on a second. Ready for this?
Here we go. Oh no, he's gone too far. He's gone.
Okay, P-Dubs, you know I love you. You should watch Andor and then make content about how you hate it, because that'll get you more views and it'll make you look cooler. Because hating on Andor is like a better view to the community than liking Andor. And I know how you're always trying to build up your own character, and building up your own character as being like someone who, you know, it's like, oh, I like Star Wars, but I only like the original series, and Andor sucks, is just the right thing for you to do.
Our shows
you should watch it.
Yeah.
And then tell everyone you hate it.
Watch it, say you hate it, and then our shows can find each other.
And then you need to cancel Disney Plus and tell everyone you canceled Disney Plus because you hate Andor
on stream.
That will be the best.
And MG is letting us know that FYI, P-Dubs left 20 minutes ago. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Any minute now, he's be like, "No, it's still here.
Still
I'm always here." Because I was on some like live stream, and it was like 45 minutes into the stream, and I said something about P-Dubs, and boom, he popped up in the chat. I'm like, oh, he's always listening.
I will say this: no matter what you say about the series, about the show, they gave us this.
That was a good scene.
That's a pretty good scene. That's pretty cool. I know. Let me. I'll put it to you this way. This looks fan servicey. This looks like, oh, whatever. But because they didn't do it all season long, because they didn't give us lightsabers and all that other stuff, this has a bigger impact because we didn't get that all season. This was the very tail end. We see how it directly connects with our characters in the show. This is how Disney should do this. If you want to connect with a bigger part of the bigger universe, do it sparingly at the very end of the show.
Okay. Now we're at the end, and I'm ready to tell you what I said in the beginning. Andor is the TN monitor.
Yes, bring it back to this.
All right.
Tell me why, because I don't know that I'm on board yet.
Okay, so I was yes, and there's a couple jokes Paul made that I didn't prepare for the episodes, but I watched Star Wars Theory. It's kind of funny. I think I watch more Andor content than Home Arcade, to be fair. A lot of times, and we've talked about this, like you'll do a review and or someone will do an Arcade 1-Up review and you're working on a review, but you won't watch it because it's just kind of like you'll be influenced by it. And
exactly.
you just like, let me just do my genuine review and then I'll watch all your reviews. And we've all felt that. We've had this moment where we're like, now that I got my review out on a topic, I'll go watch all the other content,
Sure.
And so during this Andor season, I really wanted to kind of dive into the hobby, right? And I've been watching Star Wars content for a really long time. And some of my favorite content, I discovered new content creators, like Star Wars Meg. I've been watching her. She's really good. A no face YouTuber, like a lot of theories and kind of breakdowns. And then Star Wars Theory, of course. I've been watching him for years. And then No Mike Zero. Haven't watched him for years.
The thumbnails always get you.
Den of Nerds, but he didn't cover this very much. And then Generation Tech. And it's basically like you start watching their content, you start seeing they're in your feed. You're like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. And I think there's another one called like Elk Clips I would see a lot of, and he does a lot of shorts. And that was also very good. Anyway, so, but Den of Nerds had this interesting thought. He didn't actually say what I'm about to say, but I think this is how he feels based on everything I heard him say. I think he likes Andor, but he doesn't like Andor. And his position of not liking Andor is if he says he likes Andor, it's almost like telling Disney that he's okay with all of the next series of content to be like Andor. And that's not what he wants. Would be like you in the home arcade space, loving the Golden Tee because you're okay. And that would be like saying you're okay with 19-inch TN monitors that have really bad viewing angles. So you end up saying that you dislike the Golden Tee cabinet because it has a TN monitor. And so Den of Nerds is kind of like, I don't like Andor because it doesn't have the Force. And while everyone else is all like, that's what makes it great. And he's like, it's almost like the answer could be, but if you just want a good story, there's plenty of content out there that's great stories. Star Wars is all about the Force. It is all about those Jedis and lightsabers and stuff. And so I don't want to like something that doesn't have it. And from that perspective, I can understand it. If you're from a perspective that you're like, that is Star Wars to me. And if you see something that lacks the Force and what makes you love Star Wars is the Force, and you want to be like, I don't like that because I don't want to give them permission to make 10 more series like that. Like, and I almost feel like I agree with that in this sense. Andor, cool. Make one show that's free from the Force. Let us revel in that. Let us love the story. Tony Gilroy is not really into that anyway. That's cool. But also next year, give us Mandalorian and give us Ahsoka and then give us something else that has, and maybe that's a good mix. Maybe that's fine.
I think that okay, all opinions are valid. And this is also an opinion I happen to agree with. I understand what he's saying. If you greenlight something, and if you are a content creator, or if you're someone of a certain following, you're afraid that you're endorsing something.
Yeah.
Here's what
I do want to make it clear. He didn't specifically say that.
Okay.
It's just the feeling I get by watching his content.
That makes sense.
If for some reason he randomly found this stream and watched it, he never said that, but I feel like that's the sentiment that he has, or at least that's the takeaway that I get from what he's trying to say.
I will address that and this comment too, Paul. Yeah. There's not a disturbance in the Force. I understand that point. Here's why I love this. And listen, I had an issue. I had some disappointment with the finale. I like the series. It's bordering on love the series. Here's why I think that they mess up Jedi. I think they mess up lightsabers. They don't know what to do with it. They being Disney, right? Not so much the individual writers. I think that you have some good writers with some good takes on things. But if you're looking at the timeline of Star Wars, this is the void. The Jedi have fallen. Episode 4 is a new hope. It's a new resurgence of hope that the Empire can be defeated, and the resurgence of a real Jedi, Luke eventually becoming a Grand Master that will give rise to the new Jedi Order. I don't mind this time frame of no lightsabers and no Force. It's there, but it's not in this part of the timeline. It's not in this part of the Force is almost dormant because no one can access it.
That's fair. That's fair.
And so
they killed off majority of the Jedis, right?
Exactly. For the most part, Order 66, everybody's gone. And so New Hope refers to that. So that's what I wanted. Actually, this is what I wanted within this series, to take advantage of that void. This is a space and time where we don't, with the exception of Darth Vader, Anakin, obviously existing within this time frame, and he's hunting down and killing Jedi and all that, which is a totally separate thing.
Which they could make an entire series on still.
Absolutely. You could have both happening at the same time.
Sure.
But for this story being the rugged, this is the nuts and bolts part of Star Wars that I enjoy. This is something we can all identify with. This is like Batman. We can all identify with Batman because he's a regular guy. He doesn't have superpowers. Where the Jedi, Darth Vader, that's like Superman. So Batman.
It's funny. There is something that nerd said. He was saying that would be Andor. He made a connection to like Andor being like a Superman show that's all about Clark Kent without showing any of his superpowers.
Exactly. There you go.
But at the same time, actually, that would be kind of interesting.
I totally agree.
Like, imagine if you took this Superman storyline and you're like, it's still Superman, but for some reason he's lost his powers. And if you made a great story out of it, but it's still in the Superman universe and it still has the characters, that could be an interesting story, actually.
It's the flaws in the characters that make them interesting. So you take Superman, who can accomplish anything and everything. He's godlike. That's less interesting than any character with limitations. So Clark Kent, not having the Superman powers, how does he deal with something? Batman, he's got the gadgets and the money, but he doesn't have, superpowers, super strength, can't fly, all that. This is that side of Star Wars I want to see, in the void, in the space, in the time that the Jedi are gone. They're not leading. They're not a force for good within the universe. That void, that vacuum is being filled by both the Empire and then rebels who want to rebel against it, but they can't harness the Force. And that's what I wanted to see with the show. And I will say that this show is giving me that.
Yeah. There was a quote by Tony Gilroy that I heard recently that he was saying, I mean, this show doesn't have the Force, but it also said one of the reasons why the galaxy, the Star Wars galaxy, is so large that the average person, like a person that's on Ferrix, it's never met a Jedi, doesn't even know what a Jedi is. It actually does make sense. Years later, where there's also a huge absence of Jedi, what does Rey say? I know we're bringing up the sequel series, but Rey says, I thought Jedi was a myth.
It's 25 years right now in Andor. We're 25 years removed from Order 66. That's a long time, So I think a lot of people...
there's zero remnants of any of that old world now, especially in these other random planets that had nothing to do with any of that anyway.
A generation later, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's a cool challenge for Disney. It's kind of funny. We say Disney, we say Disney Star Wars. You have to remember that also. Lucasfilm has been Lucasfilm for a really long time.
Forever, yeah.
So it's like we call it Disney Star Wars, but it's actually Lucasfilm, and it's been Lucasfilm the entire time. It's just sans George Lucas, but he does consult from time to time.
He does consult. I think it's the only reason
Disney greenlights things, right? But it was kind of funny if we're talking about like Star Wars. specifically, I think one of the biggest problems is not Disney, it's Lucasfilm. It's like the
Okay.
individuals of Lucasfilm themselves are scared of another disaster.
Right.
And they themselves are the ones that are like basically running their own, they're the ones that are like delaying more movies. I don't think it's like Bob Iger or Bob Chapek saying, oh, you shouldn't do another Disney movie. It's people within Lucasfilm going like, we got to get it right. We got to get it right. We got to get it right. And those are employees of Lucasfilm. Do you know what I mean? Which is an entity of the Walt Disney Corporation.
MG is correct. It's actually 15 years. So we are 5 years before the Battle of Yavin, which would put Luke at 19. So yes,
it's a good point. If the New Hope is Luke, this is like absolutely the minimal amount of Darth Vader is already killed 15 years ago, the majority, and he's killed a whole bunch of other people that we don't know about, right?
Absolutely. So 15 years of that going on, 15 years of propaganda too. The Empire stomping out all hope is another thing we have to consider. Not just the time removed from the Jedi, which a lot of people may remember Jedi in, maybe just the concept of them, but the Empire is also stomping that out completely. They have their own propaganda, right? I mean, that's how you maintain control of systems. But it's an area, it's a sandbox I like them to play in. And yeah, I agree. Lucasfilm is trying to be profitable. They're trying to capitalize on this property. They're bringing in people that, unfortunately, George Lucas had a vision. It wasn't always maybe quote unquote the best, right? But it was a unique vision. I think his implementation, especially with the prequels, it would have been better probably if someone else would have directed those movies.
Yeah.
But his vision, right? His overall story.
I was talking to a friend yesterday. I spent a lot of time with him, and we were talking about a lot of Star Wars. And he didn't really like the sequel series, and I didn't really like the sequel series either. And I told him the story. I told him the story of like Jar Jar Binks, about, I don't know if you know that story about how the guy almost killed himself because of the backlash of Jar Jar Binks.
Poor actor. Yeah.
So he didn't know about that, and then he also didn't know about George Lucas wrote 7, 8, and 9.
He did,
but Disney didn't greenlight that.
The treasure trove he was going to give over to Kathleen Kennedy. Exactly.
Yeah. So I started explaining that storyline to him as much as we know about it. And as I was saying it, I was kind of like, maybe it makes sense that Lucasfilm decided not to use George Lucas. I mean, maybe I don't know the storyline very well. I like the idea of the wills, like learn more about the Force, like the ingredients, the down to the microscopic level of how that all works, and kind of explain how like Yoda was able to commune with Qui-Gon and through the wills, and all of that sounds really exciting. But there's one thing that's a part of the George Lucas sequel series that actually doesn't make a lot of sense, and actually tells me like maybe it makes sense that Lucasfilm threw that part of the way, is the evil character that was going to be the main thread of 7, 8, 9 was going to be Darth Maul.
Yes.
And I actually don't think Darth Maul is a strong enough character. Now, and then if you think about it for a second, they're like, so they created this Snoke character. Okay, hold on. Episode 7 had Snoke. When we watched Snoke, and we only watched episodes of J.J. Abrams' Star Wars of Snoke, it was fine. And I think Snoke was a stronger character just by watching episode 7 than Darth Maul. It had way more potential. And then episode 8 ruined that potential.
It destroyed everything, yes.
And episode 9 made it even worse because they were like, that was just Palpatine as a puppet.
Unfortunately,
but if Snoke was actually like, if there was this history.
If there was a story, right, exactly. Yeah, I agree. It's like, I'm not giving J.J. Abrams a pass for episode 9, but the poor guy, what is he supposed to do? Episode 8, Rian Johnson just destroyed everything. And how are you supposed to, now he's got to accomplish so much with one movie. I don't know how you could have pulled that off. It would have been better to have a one cohesive story, an arc,
Exactly.
that connected all three movies.
Exactly.
Something, anything, right?
Here's the thing that sucks, bringing it back to Andor.
Yeah.
If you consider season 1 of Andor on par in the sense of the amount of time they had to spend filming and writing episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, those 12 episodes and the story and how they connected the dots between this one and that one. And you can look back at 12 episodes and say, that had a consistent storyline that was thought through multiple times over. They did not throw that together. There's scenes in episode 1 that tie to episode 12. There's callbacks in episode 11 to episode 2. It's
a cohesive story. It's planned. It's drawn out. And
episode
I love
7, 8, and 9 was not.
I love the fact that you and I can sit here and look at 12 episodes and we can pick it apart and say this and that. And I would have preferred this, but we can only do that if the main structure is in place. If it's just chaotic, it's just nonsense. Like I believe those 3 movies were. If they would have had a cohesive storyline going through all 3,
they should have just said, J.J. Abrams, your Snoke and all of that. Give us 3 episodes about that.
Just do that.
Complete your story. Do the whole thing.
And then we can pick it apart and we can talk about this. And I would have rather had that and blah, 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 and back and forth. But because it's not cohesive, there's nothing to really discuss other than I don't like this, I don't like that. It's all crazy. We're getting that with Andor. We're getting that with some of these other shows. So I'm definitely grateful for that. Don't get me wrong at all.
Give us more of that.
Yeah. And this sandbox, or this time frame, lends itself well to don't talk about the Jedi, don't talk about the Force or the Sith or nothing, because this is that void. And now we're at the end of season 1.
So here's what's exciting.
What do you think about season 2? Go.
What we actually
finish your thought. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Mandalorian season 2 is supposed to come in February, I hear.
Season 3, bro.
Season 3, sorry.
Season 3.
And then we get Ahsoka, which is going to be heavy. So if you're missing those lightsabers and you're missing
you're going to get that. Exactly.
You're going to get that.
Yeah.
I mean, is Luke Skywalker freaking going to be in season 3 of Mandalorian?
Yeah, he has to be.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, this is rebuilding the Jedi Order. Yeah, he'll be there. If not, definitely in Ahsoka, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So maybe they're like, they gave Tony Gilroy, they're like, do a Rogue One thing, no lightsabers, sounds good. Just make a really good storyline.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you look at it for what it is and they're just trying to mix it up, I've heard some people that are loving the Marvel, they're watching all the Marvel and they're watching all the Star Wars, and they're saying they like Andor more than all of the random Marvel stuff that's been coming out, because they're like, Andor actually fits into the Star Wars universe, tells a story.
It does. Yeah. I think it's more grounded, which is weird to talk about a Star Wars show being more grounded, but it's relatable. It's the nuts and bolts. It's the non-super powered human beings that are they've had enough. They want to get rid of the shackles of the Empire and rise up. And I think a lot of people can identify with that.
Yeah.
And getting us to that point, I think there's tons of material to mine there. But to your point, that's exactly right. You can have this, which takes place before, the original trilogy, right? So this is the rebellion rising and all that, and then Mandalorian, Ahsoka after the original trilogy and all that. Yeah. And so they're playing with those two voids. So over here we can have Jedi and the rising and the reconstruction of that, and all that stuff, and the fanciful magic and that, right? And over here, you can have the nuts and bolts and the grungy, grimy world of the rebellion. You can have those two, and they can exist separate, but giving us two different perspectives of Star Wars. I think it makes sense.
Here's the other thing I'm really excited about. There's a rumor. I don't know how accurate it is. I think it's all rumor stuff, right? So the whole Chapek is fired, and Iger is now CEO of Disney again. Yeah. Right? He was CEO for 15 years, and then you got the whole past of Iger, who used to be CEO of ABC back when like Indiana Jones Chronicles were, a thing. And the only reason why Disney even owns Lucasfilm is because Bob Iger, when he was CEO of ABC, greenlit season 2 of Indiana Jones Chronicles, which was George Lucas thing, and George Lucas was willing to sell to Bob Iger, not Disney necessarily, Bob Iger, who then at the time was CEO. And so now Bob Iger's back. And then there's a rumor, this is the rumor part, that Bob Iger sent an email out or something that was like, hey, everybody, give me your best scripts and have it on my desk by 1 a.m. tonight. I guess that was like last week.
No way.
Like these are like to, I don't know to who, but I was reading it on some random, there's a lot of interesting gossip that's going on YouTube. And I'm reading it and I'm like, I think he's supposed to be back for 2 years. There's also rumors that Disney's going to sell to Apple, and that's actually why Bob Iger's back. There's all rumor mills about that.
Wow, that would be nuts.
Like, that's actually why he's brought back. There's whole rumors about that. But what's interesting is I'm fascinated about all of it. But I think he may be coming back and be going, this is what I'm hoping what happens.
Yeah.
Is he's like, okay, Star Wars is like one of our biggest entities that Disney Plus could like really benefit from. And he's all like, hey, Lucas, what hasn't been greenlit under Chapek? Oh, you were going to do this, but Chapek said no. You were going to do this. Greenlit. Oh. Let's make some money.
Wow.
Just give them what they want. I really hope that's what we find out in the next month or so, that they're like, there's rumors that it's like, they're going to try. If you think about it, I was like, okay, episode 7, 8, and 9, they probably learned a lot, what not to do, what the fandom doesn't like.
Yeah.
But also those movies made billions of dollars. I technically don't know if Mandalorian made the money that movies make. What if Iger comes back and is all like, greenlight some new movies, some new Star Wars trilogy? But don't rush it. Do it right. Just give the audience some interesting stories with, I don't know. I'm hoping
it's
that's
interesting.
what happens.
It's interesting. I really hope that, because I hope they're not sitting on a bunch of bad ideas. I hope they're sitting on some good ideas.
That's fair. I mean, it's very possible they've been sitting. I mean, look. Here's the thing about Andor. I saw an interview that it was Surreal and Dedra talking, the actors, right, in an interview, and they're like, the interviewer, they're like, so what do you think about Andor and the reaction of it? And they're like, this is really interesting. We filmed it 2 years ago. During the pandemic, when the pandemic started, we filmed Andor. And we're just now, it's kind of interesting because they're like, we've moved on, like, obviously time stands still during the pandemic, right? So imagine here's these actors that the pandemic started, they start filming Andor, and then 2 years later, it finally makes it to Disney Plus, and they're seeing the audience react to something they filmed like 2 years ago. I don't know. Just, it was kind of interesting to hear them say that, to be like, I didn't realize that like that much time had lapsed since they. Here's something I think that Disney's been sitting on, and I don't know if they would do this, but if you're talking about quick, easy, fast money, and I'm pretty sure that George Lucas doesn't want this to happen, but could we finally get the theatrical cuts of episode 4, 5, and 6 in HD Blu-ray? I mean, what is it called? The
despecialized,
but official.
But like other people have come in and they've taken private companies, private individuals have come in and tried to splice this together. If they just take the original cut, HD remaster, here it is, no edit, no addition, nobody touched this. I mean, that's just free money, right?
Yeah.
That could be something. If he's greenlighting stuff, dude, I'm all about that.
There's this other theory that I've been fascinated about, and and this hit John Campa, like his podcast, one of the biggest.
Oh, Campia?
Huge podcast, right?
Oh yeah.
So he talked about it, and he says he's got two inside piece, one person who's never done him wrong, inside info, and another person that's mostly right, but isn't always right. He says Kathleen Kennedy is already gone.
Dude, no way.
That she's leaving either right before Indiana Jones is like finished up, or after it hits the theaters.
Oh, that would be incredible.
And they're already looking for a replacement for Lucasfilm because Iger came in, he's cleaning the house. That it's the rumor mill, but John Kappa, or Campia.
Take it all with a grain of salt. Yeah.
Yeah, but then I've heard this other big stretch theory that Iger's, again, these content creators could be just making crap up. They could be making stuff up.
Who knows?
But the big one is Iger made a call.
I'll put up the, here you go. We got the theory.
Yeah.
It's good.
The other one is Iger became CEO and then called George Lucas.
Stop it.
And said, we need your help.
We need your help to fix this. I mean, what?
Imagine.
Oh my gosh.
So here's the thing. Here's my added to the theory. I'd always heard that Lucasfilm was bought from George Lucas for $4 billion, which seems like actually a low amount of money. I worked for the company Stars at the time that Disney bought Lucasfilm. They bought Lucasfilm for $4 billion, and Stars was sold to Lionsgate for also $4 billion. So I was like, what would you rather own, the Star Wars or the company Stars? And it's like, exactly. Star Wars is more than Stars, right? And I always thought that was weird. But then I learned more recently, $4 billion was the cash. George Lucas also got stock.
Oh, I thought it was like 2 or something.
He's got like royalties or something. There's more to it.
So, if you had a blank check,
well, you look at
where we're at now.
If he still owns a piece of it, couldn't Disney go to George and be like, you want to make your stock worth a little bit more money, or your royalties worth a little bit more money?
But what do you do? Okay, so you want to improve the brand, Star Wars. You're George Lucas, knowing what's happened. What is it? I mean, okay, we have Harrison Ford's alive. We have.
You're going there.
I'm just saying. If I'm George Lucas and I'm tasked with improving the brand, I've only got a couple. I've got the main two of the big three still alive. Billy D. Williams, I guess, you got Lando.
I don't know if they would ever do it.
Possibly do. How could you rewrite what's done?
There's one way. I don't think they would ever do it, but I like this idea. We've talked about this as content creators. We've had an idea, and I've told you this.
What if? Yeah.
It's the so you have an idea. How do you make that idea the best idea possible? How do you make that idea better? And I learned this from a CEO from a company that I used to work for. He said this to me once. It was a weird situation, and he was like, if you had all the money in the world, we had a problem in the company. We needed to sue this other company or whatever, and it was a investigative company. We were like investigating piracy, and the CEO said to me, we had this problem, and he goes, me and this other guys, imagine you had all the money in the world.
Right.
What is the best possible scenario that could happen? And my boss goes to the CEO. The FBI got involved, the U.S. Marshals. We identify exactly who did this criminal activity against our company, and he goes to jail for a really long time. He goes, okay, cool. So he writes on the board, FBI, U.S. Marshals. He starts writing those down. He goes, okay, cool. How do we make that happen? And he goes, we'd call the FBI and let them know about this criminal activity that took place. So we contact the U.S. Marshals. And he goes, okay, cool. This is your new job. And it was this weird moment with me and a handful of the people where we're like, okay. So we exited the room, and we did exactly that. We called the FBI. We called the U.S. Marshals. We got them on the call. We had conference meetings about it. We explained the entire situation. And literally that dude's in jail now. Like the whole thing. And it was all because this freaking guy from Harvard, this amazing CEO, just had this very simple leadership skill of if you had all the money in the world, what would you do? And in fact, we didn't need any of the money in the world. Anyway, coming back to Star Wars, I'm like, what is the best thing that Disney could possibly do?
Yeah, what is it? Yeah.
Bring George Lucas back. And here's an interesting one that I've heard. I don't know if they'll ever do it, but it would be amazing. What if they pretended 7, 8, and 9 was fan fiction?
Dude.
And they just did it all over again.
My gosh.
They go 7, 8, and 9 was it's an alt. That's a what if.
I mean, those movies have already made their money.
That's true.
So you could just say, yeah, that was a what if.
These are not the movies you're looking for.
They're for sale if you want them. I mean, so they've made their money. All right. They're not going to, there's no DVD sales. There's very little Blu-ray sales anymore. They make all their money up front. Okay. Would they do it? Probably not, but it's possible. If you could pick up episode 7, and if you keep the EU for the most part intact, where basically what happens between Return of the Jedi and 7 is that Luke rebuilds the Jedi Order. He's a Grand Master. He is sitting on not a throne, but he's an elder, right? Harrison Ford, Han Solo, an elder. You would have to recast Carrie Fisher's part as Princess Leia, but they're elders. They're not the main thrust of the story, but they're alive. They're legends, right? They're respected. They're exalted. They're great. And then you have your story. So they don't have to be the focus, but you can still honor them in a way that keeps them kind of up on a pedestal a little bit. That's fine.
Good.
And they could be advisors, but you still have your new story. I think the new story still has to exist, whether it's the kids, Jaina and Jason, whether it's Ben Skywalker. You could have Mara Jade, Luke's wife, and all this stuff. You could pick up where Luke, but I think we're probably going to get Lucas's story, right? We're going to have the seedy underbelly. The New Republic is not taking hold in some areas, and you have, Darth Maul is kind of like Jabba the Hutt, kind of the ringleader, the crime boss. It's kind of underwhelming, but we have to remember to keep the canon and the story intact. Return of the Jedi, that was the death of the Sith. You really can't have the Sith proper exist anymore to keep those other movies, in canon, to keep them relevant. It's a weird position to be in for sure.
There was this one theory that I heard. It was during the Mandalorian episodes. It was kind of an interesting idea. It was something to do with Ahsoka and Baby Yoda. It's this idea that in Mandalorian, there's this scene, where Baby Yoda decides whether to stay with Luke Skywalker and train with him or to go back with the Mandalorian.
Yes.
And then there was the Ahsoka episode where, it kind of introduced a time travel multiverse. And so they were saying, like, what if the Snoke timeline, the bad Luke timeline.
Oh my gosh. You're talking about the Kelvin timeline from Star Trek, right? Except it's Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly.
Different timeline.
So it's this idea that if Baby Yoda went with Luke, that would have led down the path of you get 7, 8, and 9. But because Baby Yoda went with Mandalorian, the clone and the Snoke and that never happened. And the cloning never happened, and so you get a whole new
alternate
series.
1985.
Yeah, this is alternate, except for alternate 1985 is what we already got.
We actually got the alternate. We didn't get the real. Yeah, exactly.
We didn't get the good one.
There's no bad.
So then, it turns into fan fiction. It means there's this weird alternate hero's journey where Luke Skywalker becomes grumpy and
gave up and
then kind of fixed it all. And then there's another timeline where he was just a badass.
Listen, that's what when I saw, oh my gosh, when I saw episode 7, what I wanted so much out of 8 was I did a video about this, gosh, man, long ago, before 8 came out. And what I wanted was to, obviously we're going to see an older Luke, but what I wanted so badly, totally selfish, just me. I wanted to see a flashback of young Luke being, like you said, being a badass in the Force, 100% in control. And we kind of got that in that last episode of Mandalorian season 2, where he just comes in and owns the place.
That is true.
And that's why, I brought me to tears. You get to see Luke.
Yeah.
He just owns it. He's taken on these droids.
They did give us that scene,
nothing. So we got that in some way. But what I wanted to see in episode 8 was that, a flashback of that. And then we see Luke sort of in his prime. The Jedi Order is established. Because to me, that fulfills the promise of the original trilogy, and brings that forward. And we feel that satisfaction completing his arc, and then we pick up the new story of the new characters. That's what I selfishly wanted,
So hear me out.
Okay.
Remember how we hated how George Lucas kept on coming back and editing his movies?
Oh yeah.
What if Iger was all like, "Hey, George Lucas, you have free reign to make an edited version of 7, 8, and 9, and you can reshoot scenes, and you can re-release it.
Oh my gosh.
We can re-release 7, 8, 9 in the theaters, and it's called the George Lucas Special Edition." And I think I would go see that, and we would be like, "You win, George Lucas. Okay, Special Edition is awesome."
And totally redeemed yourself. Okay.
Totally redeemed yourself.
I don't know if you've seen this. So Sylvester Stallone during the pandemic went back and re-edited.
That's right.
He re-edited Rocky IV.
That's right.
And he said, because he's older now, more mature, blah, 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 he's looking at it with different eyes. And he takes all the raw footage, re-edits. It's the Rocky versus Drago, I think is what he calls it, the edit or whatever. Only available digitally. And I saw that. And just his re-edit of original footage just like changes the tone and the feel of the movie completely. The events basically are the same.
Yeah.
But the feel is totally different. I could absolutely see George coming in and doing something funky, and probably he can't make it worse. It would make it better. I mean, would absolutely go see that, though.
It would probably be like I remember that story with Rocky. They planned it being like a few month project, but I think it took years.
Oh yeah.
Because he just kept on digging in on it.
He couldn't stop. Yeah. Yeah.
But I wonder if it'd take George Lucas years, but maybe it would be awesome if we find out he's been working on it this whole time. Because if he had access to the raw footage, right? He has all the multiple takes of every scene. I mean, it's not just edited scene. There's probably thousands of hours of content.
You said the outtakes and all that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, to have Luke live at the end of 8 really would just be a matter of editing out that fade out scene where he died. I mean, he could just be exhausted at the end of the battle.
That's interesting.
Force projected. He could
see. That's what I didn't like about that scene. It didn't make any sense. They didn't. This is the one scenario where I was like, I wish they spoon feeded it to me, because him like being exhausted and then he looks off into the sunset and then he disappeared. I was like, what happened?
I walked.
Yoda died. That was clear.
That was clear. He was incredibly old. He was that was clear, right? I walked out of the theater with my 3 sons, and they just like, so, they know I'm a giant fan, right? And they're like, "So Dad, what'd you think?" And I just was like, just grabbing my keys and trying to find the car. I was just stunned because I didn't really understand.
I didn't understand. Yeah.
I'm like, am I just stunned because Luke died, or am I actually?
Why did he die? They didn't do enough to be like. They should have had an establishment scene where, and they kind of did a little bit, but not enough. It should have been like, it should have been a sacrifice. It should have been like, this will kill him. You should have known that moment they revealed that he was a hologram, you should have been like, oh no, but that's going to kill him, because they established earlier that if he does that, that'll kill him.
Right. What I never understood is that if you wanted him to sacrifice himself anyway, and this added to my confusion, why didn't we have the scene where he pulls the X-Wing out of the water, which would be a callback, right?
Sure.
He actually travels to the planet. He actually does battle and dies in battle. That would accomplish exactly the same thing. But they didn't do that, and they made it be some weird, like you said, to your point, it's a confusing force power. We don't understand the strain that it puts on the body. I was confused. You were confused. It wasn't really established.
They kind of mentioned it earlier, like
kind of,
but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough.
If he's going to sacrifice himself, why not just have him travel to the planet and actually be there and actually sacrifice himself? It was just, it was just weird.
I thought it was cool when they revealed that he was a hologram. It was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And they could have made that work, and they could have also just not killed him. And he was just like, that's a clever trick. He's like, he wasn't really there because he's that powerful.
Like, yeah.
And then like have him die in episode 9, but having him die right after that event was just. I mean, I remember in the theater going, why did he disappear? I sat there for seconds going, I don't understand why he disappeared. Why did it? And it was like, there was no feeling, like there was never a thought of, oh, he must have died. Because it was just like, that doesn't make any sense.
He's gone.
Wait, he died? How would that kill him?
No, because it speaks to the point of, what was the point of being an astral projection if you're going to die anyway? It doesn't. Why not have that actual moment?
Might as well just go.
Just go there. Just actually hand the dice to Leia physically. Be there. Confront your nephew physically. And they die.
Yeah.
I mean,
again, they could have still done the hologram force projection thing, but just made it more meaningful.
Sure. Maybe he lives. Maybe he's crippled by the use of the force, or to your point, it's established before.
Or what if that was the cliffhanger? He falls over, and you're like, "What happened to him?
Oh, is he okay? Oh no! Is he in a coma? What happened? Something. Yeah. But to that point though, you could easily edit that out, and he could just be exhausted from the use of the force, but he doesn't die, and you just edit that out, and then George can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, and so much people in the chat are agreeing with us. It's 7. If you ignore 8 and 9, 7 wasn't bad.
I agree.
It was. And other people in the chat mentioned this earlier, how 7 was kind of a repeat of 4.
I agree.
If it played out right, it could have been echo of 4.
I'd be okay with
establishing a new story. Sure. That's fine.
Sure.
But 8 just killed it, and then 9 was clearly a cleanup.
They were 8. JJ was just doing what he could to kind of put Humpty Dumpty back together again. But at that point, it was just too much of a mess.
It really
was
kind of cool with the Luke Skywalker in the fire. And he kind of looked at the camera, and he looked at the camera and said, "Yeah, I fixed it." That was J.J. Abrams being like, "I know, we screwed up, so we fixed it.
This is the most important thing in the world." But in the last movie, Luke, okay.
He's like, "No, we fixed it.
Good. We're good."
But they shouldn't have had to have done that scene. They only did that scene as a callback to the director
because it was a mess from the second movie. It's just sad, but
again, Andor is kind of better than all that.
Andor's better than all that because of its consistency, because of its common thread, the story. And you and I get we get to pick about the little details. I was disappointed. I was excited, but it's still something that it has structure. It's intact, and that's what I really love about it. Yeah. Second season, not episode 2, but season 2. Where do you think we're going to go? What are your hopes and dreams for the second season of a show I think we're both overall digging?
I kind of hope that it picks up right where it left off. Like it replays the scene. It could do a time jump. Maybe it's a time jump. I could see that. But Andor's got to be with Luthen, and maybe it'll do like a what's he doing with Luthen and what's the other crew doing, and then somehow they tie together. But I really am excited. I have no clue how they go from end of season 1 to Rogue One.
Yeah.
They can create like kind of whatever they want.
And that's some of the excitement that I have for the show. It's not, in a way, and I know I'm going to cut against what I said before, I wish someone would have died or something. I wish they would have in some way.
Oh, a lot of people are going to die in season 2. Just don't worry. I mean, you know what I mean? Luthen's not in Rogue One. You know that, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of people that are not going to make it out of season 2, that's for sure.
I have a feeling by the end, it's only Andor that's alive.
I think we're going to have to see probably Mon Mothma completely leave the Senate, right?
Sure.
We know that at the beginning of episode 4 that the Emperor disbands the Senate completely.
Okay.
That's stated in the movie. So the lead up to that, right? So that could be completely just dismantled and just chaos, right? So that's going to all fall apart, and she'll assume that command. Curious to see what happens to her family. The individual players within the rebellion will either move up in the ranks and become generals, or be despised and killed because they double cross so many people. That could be interesting in season 2. The double crosses that happen as a result of what happens in season 1. So we could have Saw Gerrera kill Luthen, and Luthen be okay with it because, hey, it's like, hey, no hard feelings. This is what we have to do to survive, type thing. It could get really, because to your point, these characters aren't going to make it. Do they get heroic send-offs, or do they get stabbed in the back type of
here's how it could play out.
Killings. It could be interesting. I hope they keep up the intrigue and the double crosses and triple crosses.
Will they continue the trilogy? The 3-episode arc.
The 3-act structure we talked about, yeah.
And will it end up being 3-episode arc? This is how this person dies. This is how this person dies.
Why not? If
this person dies.
If they really have to wrap this up in one more season, there's some loose ends that have to be wrapped up.
It could be more like, this is the sacrifice that this person makes.
What about this? Andor kills Luthen. Complete the circle.
Very well. That could be the end of season 2.
That could be
Andor
the final shot, right?
What if Luthen is a Sith and Andor kills a Sith?
Why not?
How about this?
Yeah.
Luthen's a Jedi and Andor kills.
Oh my God. Now, well, that's so, man, that's just horrible. Justin,
I'll see you in 2 years, man.
Over 2 hours. It's been an excellent time. It's been a fun ride.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed the season overall. Disappointments here and there, but for the most part, I've enjoyed it. Really, really, really enjoyed doing the show with you.
Yeah,
and having this interaction.
I have one question for you before we finish.
Yes, sir. Finish.
What was your favorite episode?
What was my favorite episode? Well, with that question, you know what that leads us into? This.
What the hell?
Yo, the sign is real simple, B. It says wrap it up.
We're gonna wrap it up with a great question. What was my favorite episode? Man, I gotta tell you, I don't know. I don't know. I think probably, what was it, episode 6, when they actually do the escape, the heist is complete and they leave. I forget the name of the episode, but it was the event, right? It was so bombastic. It was the culmination of so much planning. That was probably my favorite. It's definitely a highlight. But some of those character development moments, some of the stuff with Luthen is just so cool. Just not just he's cold and chisel and just this is what we have to do. To see the actor emote and the way he rationalizes what has to happen, his internal struggle shows on his face. He's got the best scene, he's got the best pictures, he's got the best backdrops and all that. But probably, I mean, it's probably a cop out. But yeah, when they actually complete the mission, and
that's what I had in mind.
That was pretty cool.
Kino, everything.
Oh yeah, Kino
just the escape, and then I even actually liked, thinking back, I can't swim. It shows here heroic. He knew that. He knew he couldn't swim.
Good point.
He knew there's water outside of the prison. When he said, "I consider myself already dead," he meant it. Will he be in season 2? I hope so. But it means that he still was willing to do the sacrifice to save everyone else and to not allow the Empire to win. And he would rather die trying. And I think that was the best episode.
I think he obviously meant that with everything, knowing what he knew. And it's quite a revelation, isn't it? Almost like what do you mean? And then before we really have time to sit with it, Andor's off the prison, and they're swimming. We got some comments from a couple people. Paul says, "Thanks again, Fox and Justin, for doing this series. Great job. Have a great week, everyone." Absolutely. It's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah. MG says 19K Box and Justin, thanks for doing these streams. We love the more than anything you could ever do wrong. Well, that's good. That's definitely a good thing. Yeah. And we have some homework. Everyone watch Rogue One before next weekend so we can discuss. Not a bad suggestion indeed.
I was thinking about watching Rogue One after this. It'd be fun. I've been keeping on seeing it on Disney Plus. I'm like, yeah, I should watch it next.
I should probably swing over and watch that. Yeah, definitely check it out. I'm going to be on a plane all day Monday. So, gotta do some work. Going to be back Sunday, but I'm probably going to, I think I'll definitely watch Rogue One for sure.
You're going to be on a plane? Maybe go watch it on the plane.
Yeah, I'll watch it on the plane. It's going to be on the iPad. I'll definitely check it out. So, Justin, again, buddy, thanks for hanging with me. It's been a lot of fun. I'm anxious to see what next season holds for us. Everybody, thank you so much for stopping by and checking out this channel, his channel, our channel, and hanging out with us, discussing Andor and this podcast. Thank you so much for stopping by, and we will see all of you next time. Peace.